There we go. Of notes. I'm organized today.
Woo!
So far we've looked at kind of the more traditional approach to hypnosis. We've started looking at language, and I know we've touched on language stuff before. Do really recommend going back and visiting those two videos if you've not done so already this year, because what's in them is relevant to what we're doing now as well. Today, we're going to get a bit more practice in because that's good. And we're going to start. So we've looked at some words and we've looked at bringing it all together. But now we're going to introduce something which I love, when it's done well, it's exquisite. We're kind of like we've learned patterns, language patterns, certain keywords that we can use to help. Basically, using language to get people to go within is how I see it. Whether you want to call that going within hypnosis or trance, but anytime someone asks you something and you have to pause and kind of look inside, oh, hang on, there's a message there. That's right, exactly. Anytime we are going to get this like stream of like, yes, that's right. Anytime someone says something that makes us kind of look within our own minds, search our own thoughts, we're basically entering into trance. If I ask you to, I know I've said this before on many occasions, but if I ask you to think of a perfect holiday or somewhere where you've been that felt really good, and then I ask you to go into the memory of it and explore the memory of it, the moment you're exploring in here and you're not focusing out here, you are in an altered state, you are in trance. And with everything we've looked at so far, you have more than enough material, not just to take people into hypnosis in the traditional way, um, but also to literally just talk people into trance as well. That trance may be with eyes open, maybe with eyes closed. Doesn't actually really matter. Eyes open, eyes closed. It's not a state of eyelids. It's a state of mind. And so, if you've got somebody gazing off into the distance, exploring the thought or the suggestion or whatever it is you've just said to them, doesn't matter whether their eyes are open or closed. What matters is the fact that they're doing that processing. And we've all done it. But also when someone says, "Oh, such and such," and you're trying to remember their name, and what do? You go "Phoomp," in here, you're searching, you're searching, you're searching, you're searching. For a moment, you're in trance. You're going through your memories. You're going through your unconscious mind to find out what that name is. Maybe you remember it. Maybe you do not. So today we're going to look at artful vagueness, which is one of the ways that Erickson exquisitely used language. And it's a way that brings together or can link together the different patterns that we've been looking at as well. So when we talk about artful vagueness in hypnosis and in language, we're basically talking about statements that mean a person has to attach meaning of their own to it. But if you were to look at it or listen to it stepping back from it, you'd realize that when somebody's speaking artfully vaguely, they're saying a whole lot of nothing about nothing. And one of the one of the great ways of remembering what constitutes or makes up part of an artfully vague language is you use words that you can't hold in a bucket, things you can't put in a wheelbarrow. Yeah. So things like understanding. So understanding means one thing to me. It might mean something completely different to Fiona, completely different to Susan, and completely different to Sally. Yeah. The word love can mean different things to different people. The word peace actually can mean different things to different people. Solving, solution. None of these things are tangible, solid objects that you can put in a bucket or a wheelbarrow. Resolution. Resolution. That can mean one thing to one person, one thing to another. Feeling. So anything that is intangible, it's not a solid quantifiable thing. Any word that is something that can be interpreted differently. And with artful vagueness, what we're doing is we're using words like that. And the idea is we construct sentences using artfully vague language and linking it with our hypnotic language that rather than me going, sit there, begin to relax, close your eyes, which are very tangible instructions, I offer choice and I don't tell people what to do. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm dropping these nondescript statements into. So your mind has to then make sense of what I am saying. And for that to happen, it has to turn in. It has to go within. Because what I'm saying will almost make sense, but the sense it makes will be your interpretation of it. I'm not telling you something that's concrete. So the aim of artfully vague language, and it's a wonderful thing. We touched on it with that kind of, I wonder where it is you feel that. Well, what? Feel what? And what am I meant to be feeling? You know, is a wonderful example of a short sentence of artfully vague language. I wonder what that is there. That's now, as you're listening to this, you can begin to notice, and as you discover more of what that is, you can begin to form your own understanding of how it is that by discovering that you can begin to use this language more freely. What on earth did I just say? Nothing. But if I'm in a conversation with you and I'm engaging your mind, the unconscious mind will go, well, there's something, so I better find something. Well, that something has to be something that leads to this, so I better make sure that leads to this, and it will help me do this better. So whatever that is that I've discovered that was this means that now I can do this. So your mind is doing the work. The language that I'm giving or you're giving is literally, it's almost nonsense. It's almost nonsense. And so those three paragraphs I've given are three examples of artfully vague language. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to read through them one at a time. And I just want you to listen, to pay attention to them and notice whatever that is that you experience as you're hearing the words, however you do that. So just have a little fidget just for a moment and just pay attention to, like, say, how each one of these makes you feel, where your attention goes, where you're focusing. And as you take a moment now, noticing the way the air moves around you, you may begin to realize that there's a rhythm, a natural flow in the spaces between each breath, like a quiet invitation to settle into something softer, something easier, allowing comfort to unfold in its own way, in its own time, just as it should. So that's the first one. Second one, because there is something about those moments when everything seems to pause, just for a moment, as if the world itself is exhaling, and somewhere Deep inside you, remember a time, a place, a feeling where all was well. And in some way, even now, that quiet knowing is still there, waiting to be noticed. And the third and final example, isn't it interesting how sometimes a simple thought, a memory, or even just the sense of something familiar can stir a warmth within, a quiet spark of something good, something light, something easy to carry, as if without even trying. You are already stepping into that feeling now. And as you pay attention to that and notice how certain words can move this way or that way, or take us within or take us without, and whether it's within that you begin to notice that now, you can discover something new that wasn't noticed before, because that which was there has always been there, just waiting like that. That's right. Got to drop that one in. So they don't have to be overtly complicated. Um, just vague, just nothing concrete, nothing solid. So as you're giving the other person's mind things to hang meaning onto. Another place you might see this kind of language is if you ever go and see a psychic or a tarot reader. And once you study artfully vague language, you see it popping up all over the place. And one of the places where it is used exceedingly well is with psychics, where they'll say some stuff and they'll put some stuff out. A friend of mine is a medium, and he used to do this, and he would just put some artfully vague stuff out. I don't know who this is for tonight, but there's a there's a person. Well, a person's neither, that could be any, or there's a person, and they say that you know what this is about. I mean, that know what's about. What do I know about? Well, I do know what this is about. It's why I came here. Pretty well everybody in the room knows what it's about because they know why they're there, but it's given that permission for them to attach the meaning to it. Um, with pain, you can use artfully vague language to help soften people's pain. Where I wonder where it was. There's a presupposition. I wonder where it was that you first noticed that wasn't what the other was, but has become something much easier than that was before when it was a lot stronger. And how is it now that you can step from that into that which allows you to feel more at ease now, just like that, and more so than it was before? I'm not really saying anything, but if you've got somebody's attention, if you're holding their focus and they're exploring this, their mind will start attaching meaning to the different sentences. Should I put that bit? Yeah, let's do that bit first. Another thing that Milton Erickson did, and if you watch any old footage of him, you'll see it in action. It's very simple technique with hypnosis, whether it's the language side of it or whether it's the more traditional side of it. If you do not believe that what you're doing is going to work, there's a good chance it won't. There's a good chance it won't. Because to deliver hypnosis well in any form, you've got to be congruent. So if I'm going, oh yeah, well, if you do this and you begin to notice that, then that pain, I'm not convincing you, am I? I'm not convincing you that this is going to work and I believe what I'm doing. So when you're delivering things, look at people directly. Look at people directly. There used to be there's whole books where, not whole books, but whole sections of books where they talk about developing the hypnotic gaze and how you should practice in front of a mirror. And there's guys out there who have practiced the hypnotic gaze. Um, it makes you look mad, to be honest. I won't lie. Yeah, it's not completely necessary, but in the same way as you would give somebody attention if you were actively listening to them, that's the kind of contact you want. That's the kind of focusing on that person, looking at that person, looking directly at that person. And what Erickson used to do was he would look expectantly. So as you begin to notice what that means to you, and he'd start looking as though he's trying to observe something happening, as though he's expecting something to happen. Obviously, again, if you do too much of it, people are going to think there's something not quite right with you. But even just as you notice that, just a raise of an eyebrow or just a shift as though you're looking for something or noticing something, um, just waiting to see, yeah, that. Um, Bringing that in really adds weight. Client this morning reckons she couldn't be hypnotized. I love it when they say that. 'Cause it all depends on what their definition of hypnosis is. And if you play with their definition of hypnosis, then yeah, I think I've said before, haven't I? People come in, they've handed over their money, and they go, "But I don't think it can be hypnotized." It's 70 quid there says you think you can. Um, do you know what I mean? It's like, why would you, if, why, you must, there's got to be a part of you that thinks this is going to work for you. Otherwise, you wouldn't really have just handed that over. Oh, it's a pity you didn't have time to try. Um, the beauty of conversational stuff is you can do conversational stuff without them knowing you're doing it. I do it covertly. But also, I think I've mentioned this, and I loved it. The first time I heard it, I thought, "Oh, that's beautiful." Um, if someone says to you, "I don't think I can be hypnotized," best response you can give is, "How do you know you're not already?" And it creates this beautiful moment where you, "How do you know you haven't been already?" The moment they, the moment the moment they start going, have I not? What's going on for me inside? Do I feel different? They're going into trance. It might not be the idea they have of trance, but they're going into trance. Um, and so, yeah, it's a wonderful line. Write it down. Always use, if nothing else, if you're in a group situation and someone's going, "Oh, I can't be hypnotized." Oh, how do you know you're not already? We'll guarantee it shuts them up straight away. And if it's a small group, everyone else will laugh, if nothing else, because they've seen that response as well. So yeah, I've always liked that one. How do you know you're not already? And when they go, hmm, and start looking inwardly, you go, "That's right." Um, and you're away. You can literally take people in from that. So looking expectantly, delivering what you're saying, and then just pausing a little bit, looking as though you're observing, waiting for something to happen. Obviously, don't ham it up too much because again, you want to seem natural in what you're doing. Um, believe it'll work and look at them as though you're watching for things, waiting for things to happen. So if I've said this to you, there will be something that lets me know it's time to move on. And even sometimes you can just nod. They might, like Susan's just blinked.
Mm.
Yeah. It could be something like that. You could even just use that as kind of what I'll do is I'll deliver a line. I'll wait for them to blink, and when they blink, I'll make that the thing I'm looking for. And the moment they blink, yeah, that's right. And to them, TV adverts, new programs like that are using this sort of language. Yes, they are. They want you to buy products or take in what they're telling you. Of course they do. Yeah, it is everywhere. And the more you look at it, the more you realize. I always used to think it was a bold statement initially that everything is hypnosis, but actually, everything is hypnosis. You know, hypnosis is about altering our states of mind, changing our state of mind. And I know I've said this before. You wake up in a bit of a grumbly mood. You kind of one of those days, maybe it's a Monday. Suddenly you get a phone call from an old friend you haven't heard from for ages. You have a good old gas for half an hour on the phone. Suddenly you think, oh, great day. It was so wonderful to hear from that person. You've changed your state of mind. You've gone from the grumbly state of mind into an upbeat, happy state of mind. And when we're using hypnosis, certainly with the conversational side of it as well, that's what we're aiming to do. I mean, if nothing else, if you can develop a bit of a knack for taking people when they're in a bit of a grumble and feeling a bit low and talking to them in a way that by the end of it, they're feeling upbeat, you've used your language successfully. Um, so what we'll do is we're going to have a break there and go into the um, breakout rooms. And I want you, how are we going to do this? I want you to practice, and I realize we're throwing in the deep. The nice, kind thing to do would be say, this is what artful, vague stuff is. Come up with some ideas for next week. But I didn't do that. Um, that's because I know you can do this. Um, So we'll break into two rooms. I'll be joining someone. We'll do a random one and then just have a go at just coming up with one or two artfully vague statements. They don't have to be that difficult. They don't have to be exquisitely kind of Shakespearean. I mean, if you can nail that, go for it. It'd be brilliant. But the thing with this is it should seem natural. It should seem just like your normal talk. So you wouldn't instantly in a conversation go, "Oh, hi, Dave. I'm wondering just what that was. That is the thing that is allowing you to begin to realize and access whatever that what used to be that will allow you to move on from that now, which can move. People don't talk like that. We don't talk like that. You would talk in normal and you drop into if you're chatting to somebody, they're feeling, I'm going to use the example of feeling a bit down because most people have days when they're feeling a bit flat, and you drop into it and you're chatting like normal and you pick up on something and you go, strange, isn't it? You know, how that old way of feeling can really suddenly more than we realize now as you begin to feel better and it just can be a quick random sentence in the middle of something and you carry on with your normal conversation and just observe and wait to see how that person shifts and moves. So have a go at coming out with one or two artfully vague statements. If the statement bit is a bit of a challenge, just literally kind of have an explore of what things you could that you could use that are artfully vague. Remember, if it's something you can't put in a wheelbarrow, you can use it. Yeah, if you can't put it in a bucket, if it's intangible, you can use it. And the idea is that the sentence kind of makes sense when you hear it. And you'll see people when you drop into this language where it's speaking, nodding, and you're thinking, I'm talking nonsense. And they're nodding because Their unconscious mind is going, ah, that's that, and that relates to that, and this is that, and use it's great for problem solving. It's, whatever that was, that was that thing that, as you begin to access new understandings, can allow you to discover what that is that allows you beyond where you used to be to where you are now and much further than this, which doesn't really make much sense. But if you've got somebody and you're talking to them, and you're working kind of either hypnotically or just dropping it in, it really can help open up people's thinking, because it's just making their mind work. It's making their mind look for things to hang on this. And the moment they start hanging things on it and looking at it differently, they're in a different perspective. It's like looking at a mountain and going, oh, I cannot climb that. If you only ever look at that side of the mountain, no, you won't. But if you can get somebody to look from behind the mountain and realize there's a cable car to the top, um, that's kind of what we're aiming to do. So let me jump this into the. We have to forgive me. Hmm. Breakout rooms. There it is. Automatically 2 rooms. Let's create those rooms. Opening the rooms now, and I'm not telling you who I'll be jumping in with the room with.
Fucker, I got the short straw.
Breakout rooms closing. Perfect. So that was interesting. Um, Play around. Same with all of it. Play around it. Have fun exploring it. I mean, if nothing else, the more you do this and the more you explore it, even if you're just like jotting it down and coming to it once or twice a week with a cup of tea, these are all things we do naturally. They're all ways that we speak naturally. We just don't necessarily always consciously know how we're applying them. And the more you explore the ideas and take on board the principle behind it, then it starts. If you just go, well, every time you want to speak artfully vague, you have to do A, B, C, D, and that makes it artfully vague. That's a technique. And actually, the idea of this is to pick up ideas and principles that you can then relate and apply to different aspects. And it's not just in your conversation. Some of these things cross over into other aspects of life, um, as well. Um, I, as you do, was the other evening, was looking at the story of from the Bible where, Jesus draws something in the sand. And it's the bit where they drink. That's it. They bring the woman out for adultery. They're all going to stone her, and they test him to say, "Oh, what should we do?" And he ignores them and draws in the sand. And then, in fact, have I got it there? No, I won't. Um, and then they say again, and he kind of, he who's without sin, let him cast the first stone. I mean, there you go. There's a statement. What does that actually mean? Well, everybody listening there would have had to have gone inside, accessed every thought they've had. Have I done this? Have I done that? What's that mean? Well, it means that if I've, oh, well, that means that it's the most perfect, artfully vague statement. It's a hypnotic suggestion right there. But let's take that another stage, because this really does appear everywhere. Questioned, what should we do, in a kind of boisterous way, rather than responding with either, well, we need to do this, this, and this, or getting argumentative, ignoring completely and drawing something in the stand. First thing we do with hypnosis, what is it? We grab attention. Then what do we do? Well, one of the things we can do is we can interrupt a pattern. And the pattern in that story is we're going to challenge in an aggressive manner. We're expecting an aggressive response back. You don't get it. Well, you've just interrupted a pattern. What's he doing? He's ignoring us. He's drawing. Hang on a minute. What's going on? Question again. Draws in the sand. Hypnotic, artfully vague. Let him who is without sin cast the first stone. What's that mean? Instantly, there's a weird, what's that mean? Well, I guess we've all done stuff we shouldn't do. So if I haven't done stuff I shouldn't do, and in the story everyone walks off. To me, that's a classic example of the use of hypnosis, both in a non-spoken and in a communicative way. Um, the thing I want to add in onto the end of this today, uh, is two things. One is the idea of the run-on sentence. And a run-on sentence is basically a sentence that runs on. There you go. Um, it's linked together. It's all the different sentences linked together. So rather than just going, and as you're sat there listening to this, you can begin to relax. It would be more like, and as you're sat there and you are listening to this, and as you're writing or nodding or even just looking off in a different direction, and as you're beginning to listen and beginning to follow and beginning also to pay more attention, you can, because whatever that is now that's allowing you to understand this at a deeper level, as you're going with this and as you're starting to just relax a little bit more and take this on board, you can discover, can you not, different things that, and you're basically running the sentence on and on and on and on. If you do that around ideas of relaxation and focus, relaxation and letting go and trance, it will take people within. But you can also use it to string together sentence after sentence, which is ambiguous sentence linked to ambiguous sentence linked to ambiguous sentence. You don't stop, you don't punctuate, you just, and it becomes hypnotic. It draws people in. If you're working specifically with trance, or even not with trance, if you're working on a solution focus for it, or, you know, invite people into the trance. Invite people by being artfully vague. Invite them to discover. Invite them. Again, because we've been doing the Ericksonian thing, we're not going, and in a moment I'll count to three, click my fingers, and an answer will be in your head, and you will know exactly what you're going to do. That's the old kind of school stage hypnosis kind of, and it's used in therapy as well. Bang, bang, bang. You're going to do this. You will discover that, blah, blah, blah. If you're inviting, so as you're sat there now, just listening to this, and some parts of you are beginning to understand this, other parts may be struggling a little bit, and you can begin to discover what it is that allows that part that's getting in the way of seeing it more clearly to begin to see this more clearly. And as you see this and understand that and notice that feeling, and the more you think about this and the more you analyze this, because when we analyze, we can truly begin to understand things on a logical level. But it is beneath that, that as you're analyzing this, you can understand and see different ways that you can apply this in whatever form allows you to be more confident now in what we were doing before, that can move you forward, can it not? Long, yeah, you see, and you'll know if it's hitting marks because sometimes people just smile and laugh. Um, it's waffling, waffling, nonsense. Um, but it will work. Um, so I'm not going to do a breakout room and say jump onto doing running sentences now, because I think that would be a little bit. We've only just introduced the artfully vague thing. So what I'm going to encourage you to do, even if it's just once over the next week, or if you can do it once a day with a cup of tea, is sit down and write out some artfully vague stuff. Write out some, and then try linking. Do longer sentences. So think about the words and the word patterns that we've language patterns we've used so far, and how they can link one artfully vague sentence to another. And la da 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 da, 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 and yeah, repeat, repeat, repeat. and because, and if you do this, that becomes this, so cause and effect. Anything that can link one artfully vague sentence to another, um, and come up with, see if you can come up with between 3 and 6 um, artfully vague. I'm going to say running sentences is what it is, but they're basically paragraphs that don't punctuate. It just leads on and on and on and on. And then if you've got a willing victim, or even just, on the chat, just say anyone want to kind of hook up and have a practice through if you've been doing it. Anyone's got some sentences to have a go at. I will. I said to Sally I was trying to find an example of Ericsson using artfully vague statements to put up, but I'll have another look with a brew in a bit. And if when I find there will be some stuff, when I find it, I'll put that up in our group thing, and you can have a look and see the maestro at work, so to speak. If not, I'll find somebody else doing it. Won't be as good as him, but so yeah. So I think that's us for today. Look back at those other two videos with the words, because all those words come straight out of all this as well. So that gives you an arsenal of 10. I think we did 5 or 6 words on each of those previous videos. So say ten words that you can use and how to apply them, mix them in with what we've looked at over the last few weeks as well, bringing in the artfully vagueness, and yeah, and enjoy doing it. Just have fun playing with words and language. Um, Excellent.